Opinion Samples 1. Governments often have competing interests. On the one hand, tobacco farmers, brewers, and smut peddlers provide legal products that are in public demand. If their activities became illegal, the demand would not simply disappear, but unemployment figures would rise and tax revenues would shrink. On the other hand, consumers have a need to get reliable information about health and other matters. And in the long run, it is cheaper for society to try to treat and rehabilitate the people who use those products than to ignore them or litigate against them. Governments, typically, try to sustain the economy while also dealing with the negative effects of bad behavior, while also trying to promote public morality and decency, while also keeping the populace content. In my opinion, governments should permit most kinds of immoral behavior, such as prostitution, polygamy, and drug use, but impose high sin taxes and use the proceeds for educational, treatment, and other restitutive programs. Section 2. I can't afford to pay all at once for tuition, medical care, health club membership, counseling, rent, food, and entertainment. But if I am convicted of a crime and sent to prison, I can get all of these, plus personal armed security, for free. I would lose my good reputation and a few years of freedom, but the investment would pay off. I would have a degree, or at least college credits and certification of skills, and I would be in improved physical condition. And I would not have had to pay anything for rent and food, so I would still have whatever money I had in savings. But even though my earning potential would have improved dramatically, I wonder if rehabilitation would be worth the effort. After all, the longer I stayed in prison, the longer I would enjoy the benefits, and I would not have to worry about being laid off or evicted. Maybe recidivism is the smart thing.
What's this world coming to?
I don't know.
100 years ago, people were kinder toward one another. They had genuine personal relationships, not cyber contacts between fraudulent avatars.
A century ago, people abused each other on a regular basis. The social media we have now allow people to expand their circle of relationships beyond their immediate family, neighbors, and colleagues.
Families were a lot closer then.
They were closer because they had less freedom and fewer choices. Marriages were arranged, personal feelings were irrelevant. Divorce was almost impossible. There were lots of children, but they were regarded mostly as economic assets.
But today, they are economic hindrances.
But if so, they are voluntary hindrances. People are free to abstain from having kids if they so desire, with very little social pressure to conform. So, if they have children, they understand the economic burden they impose and decide to have them anyway. So they probably love and cherish them all the more, despite the financial hardship.
My grandparents and great-grandparents were a lot more religious than people now, and society was more moral as a result.
I agree that religion has some impact on morality, but it's certainly not a one-to-one relationship. I know lots of atheists who are among the most ethical people on the planet, while religious fanatics are killing thousands of innocents.
Will you at least agree that people had more privacy then?
Yes, they certainly did. But one side effect of that was that crooked public officials could better hide their corruption from the public.
People didn't go to psychiatrists for therapy then, like they do now.
There weren't many psychiatrists available then, but that doesn't mean that people didn't need their services just as much as now.
100 years ago, a man could speak his mind freely without being contradicted by a woman.
So, the last century has seen good progress for women's rights and a diminution of patriarchy. Is that what you mean?
You won't believe what I'm seeing. There's somebody driving a horse and buggy down the main street.
Why is that man talking to himself? Is he crazy?
Excuse me, young man, we seem to have made a wrong turn. Can you direct us back to our home?
Do I look like some kind of human map? And who's going to clean up that horse's mess?
Can the problems of poverty be solved? Poverty and national wealth grow at nearly the same pace. That means that while society has more money overall, it is increasingly possessed by the ones at the top of the economic scale. It is not evenly divided between the rich and the poor. Maybe the poor are not any poorer than they were, and perhaps are even marginally better off, but in relative terms, they are farther behind their wealthy cohort. And the gap between the rich and poor continues to widen. But what is to be done? Confiscatory. Taxes have the desired redistributive effect in the short term, but the privileged simply move their assets elsewhere or find more effective tax shelters, or use their economic power to get legislators elected who are more sympathetic to their financial interests. Another solution is to provide government support for health, education, housing, and other programs to create a social safety net and improve conditions for the poor. In many ways, this seems to be the best policy, but the ones in the middle and higher classes tend to grow tired of having their taxes go to the benefit of others, so extensive programs of this nature are hard to sustain. As critics of these programs point out, resources are always limited, while demand is infinite.
Let's talk funny. Consumers tight with their money.
Consumers are tightening their belts as the economy continues to slump. What will happen if they continue to resist spending?
Business activity will shrink even more.
How can we get people to open their wallets again?
I don't know. We must seek professional advice from pickpockets.
Here is the list of vocabulary words and expressions, pages 8 to 9. Paradox, diminish, morals, steep, shallow, stockroom, take something to heart, hypocrisy, distillery, rehab in the red, up, rehabilitate. Pages 10 to 11. Competing interests, smut peddlers, litigate, keeping the populace content, restitutive, evict, avatar, shrink, sustain, proceeds, all at once, recidivism, fraudulent, abuse, irrelevant, hindrance, abstain, conform, one-to-one, atheist, fanatic, crooked, contradict, diminution, patriarchy, lose ground. Page 13. Overall, evenly, marginally, cohort, confiscatory, tax shelter, play, handout, fend for yourself, substance abuse, tight, tighten someone's belt, slump, pickpocket, rube, stimulate, excusable,